What is going on, everyone? It is your boy Kazak here, and today I am back at y'all with another Warrior slash Musou style video. I know it's been a minute since I made one, but here it is. I finally got around to making another one for you guys today, and the topic here is going to be a little bit more interesting as we're going to be talking about some Warriors games that I would love to see actually become a reality. I would love to see Koei Tecmo actually make these games and bring them out for all of us to enjoy and love, and give a little bit more appreciation to them as well, especially since, outside of Dynasty Warriors and some spin-off games, we haven't really seen some of these entries get a new actual sequel in a pretty good amount of time. So with that said, let's actually jump into the list and talk about this. Right out the gate, and this one should be pretty obvious, is a Samurai Warriors 6. For those guys who don't know, I absolutely love the Samurai Warriors games. I enjoyed everything from Samurai Warriors 1, 2, 3 was kind of mid-ish, 4 was good, and 5 was kind of a mixed bag for me. Honestly, I feel like it was the weakest game in the series, as that was the one that changed so much stuff about Samurai Warriors that I loved before, and it just became something that it didn't really need to be. A lot of characters got drastically different character designs. A lot of characters' movesets got removed, and a lot of iconic characters were also removed as well. Characters like Yukimura Sanada, Keiji, Masamune Dante, and alongside a bunch of other classic Samurai Warriors characters that for some reason were nowhere to be seen. Now, I understand that Samurai Warriors 5 was meant to be more of a Nobunaga game and focus on his stories and stuff, but considering that we also had a Samurai Warriors game called Spirit of Sonata, which was focused on Yukimura's story, but that game also managed to keep a lot of the OG characters in there for everyone to enjoy and play. So I'm kind of confused why they didn't just do the same thing with 5. I mean, it just kind of felt odd how, they decided that, okay, well, we're going to make this to a Nobunaga game, and then also leave out so many of the classic characters that a lot of people loved. So, in my personal opinion, it kind of left me feeling alienated. Samurai Warriors 5 was a game that really rubbed me the wrong way because of some of the questionable choices that they made, especially alongside clone characters, which was not really something that was much of a thing in Samurai Warriors games. So I was kind of disappointed to see that some of these characters ended up having clone movesets in that game. So naturally, with Samurai Warriors 6, I would love to see them actually do a complete overhaul and revert back to a lot of the things that made the older game so good. For example, bring back some of the older characters like Yukimura, Dante, Keiji, Kunoichi. Bring back a lot of the classic characters that we all knew and love and give them back their original movesets. Keep the character designs familiar but new at the same time. And then when it comes to the story, I also would love to see the story be expanded upon a little bit more, focusing on each of the different clans and different characters and stuff, rather than just being specifically for towards just one character and their journey. I would actually love to see them actually revert back to how it was in, Samurai Warriors 4, where you had all the different characters and their different factions and stuff, and you get to learn more about them, see the different events and all that stuff. Just like that. I wanted to keep it the way that they did before. And honestly, the biggest issue with Samurai Warriors 5, as outside of all the other stuff I mentioned too, was just the fact that this was a game, in my opinion, that just did too much. It was adding too many things in there that did not need to be in there, and removed a lot of things that didn't need to be removed. Essentially, don't fix what isn't broken. And that's kind of how I want Samurai Warriors 6 to be. Don't fix what isn't broken. Okay, bring back the iconic characters. Make sure each and every character have their unique movesets and weapons, and also give us more time to expand on the story, and more time to kind of appreciate a lot of these characters and stuff like that. I would really just appreciate seeing that, alongside bringing back character customization as well. That was actually another cool thing that I enjoyed about Samurai Warriors 4, was the fact that you could customize your different characters and kind of create your own unique character with their own different sort of factions and all that stuff. I thought that was a really cool idea. And for Samurai Warriors 6, I would love to see that be expanded upon with more customization options, you know, even make like a sort of like Empire style kind of game campaign where like you can kind of like play as your original character and join whichever faction you want. You know, kind of similar to like Dynasty Warriors 5's Destiny mode. You know, but this time it's about like Samurai Warriors. So yeah, when it comes to Samurai Warriors 6, those are a lot of the things I would love to see. And, you know, on top of, you know, improve upon the combat system, preferably making it something similar to Origins while still adding a little bit of its own unique flair to it as well, you know? So yeah, Samurai Warriors 6, that is one game that I would really love to see come back by Koei. I mean, make it happen, guys. Next up, we have Dynasty Warriors 10. Obviously, you know, after the garbage that was Dynasty Warriors 9, we haven't seen a actual traditional Dynasty Warriors game in a pretty long time. And while Dynasty Warriors Origins is still an absolutely phenomenal game, and I absolutely love it to bits, you know, a lot of fans were still kind of disappointed by the fact that we couldn't play as the different characters. You know, some people didn't like the fact that, you know, a lot of the movesets were, a lot of classic movesets were removed, and you know, there was still a little bit of clone movesets in there as well. And in my opinion, I think the perfect compromise for what Dynasty Warriors Origins did would be for the next entry to be a genuine Dynasty Warriors 10. Now, I did hear like an article or something where originally they were working on a Dynasty Warriors 10, but they ultimately scrapped it, or at least, you know, put it on the back burner for Dynasty Warriors Origins. And if I had to be completely blunt here, as much as some people may disagree, I actually think this was a good idea just because of how Dynasty Warriors Origins turned out and it being an incredibly successful game. But I am also one of those people that still wanted the traditional fun Dynasty Warriors style of game where I can play as my favorite characters, be able to, you know, pick like fun movesets and be able to play as them and experience their own like individual stories and all that stuff. That is just something that a lot of Dynasty Warriors fans are still wanting and quite frankly still miss to this very day. You know, especially after, you know, Dynasty Warriors 9, I think it really did kind of make Koei Tecmo feel very hesitant in terms of how they would even go about into making Dynasty Warriors 10 because 9 was just such an absolute travesty. So if I had to propose my own Dynasty Warriors 10 based off of my own vision, I would have it so that you bring back a lot of the OG characters, primarily characters from like, you know, let's say everybody from like Dynasty Warriors 1 through 5. Bring back all the OG characters, give each and every single one of them a unique moveset in the Origins engine, and you know, you build upon it, you build upon the gameplay, and give each and every character a fleshed out play style that makes them feel different from each other. And not just like, oh, well, some characters have a clone moveset here and there. No, make every single character feel unique. Which I get it, you know, considering how many characters that Dynasty Warriors has over the years, it is kind of hard to make each and every single character unique, especially with Origins, which, as you can tell, this was definitely a far more high-budget Dynasty Warriors game that we've ever seen in the past. So again, what I'm asking for might be a little bit tough for them to do, but I don't think it's impossible. You know, you bring back all the classic characters, you improve upon the combat system even more, and, you know, give us a more expanded story, just like with Samurai Warriors 6, you know, this time with Shu Wu and Wei, and maybe to add some more, like, additional stories like the Lu Bu, you know, give him his own expanded story, just like in Dynasty Warriors 8. And, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff that could be done with Dynasty Warriors 10, especially since it is the 10th entry. So, obviously, there has to be something special to be done with this game. So, you know, oh, yeah, also, no open world, please. Let's not go back to the open world. I just thought about that. I was like, let's not go the whole open world route, okay? Let's just stick to the traditional stage-to-stage level design that has been in every single Dynasty Warriors game. Or if you want to make it a little bit interesting, just do it how Dynasty Warriors Origins did, where you kind of have like a little Destiny mode where you can pick whichever character from the 3 kingdoms and then have like a little mini story that they can have. Like give them up to like maybe 5 to 7 stages just based around their own stories and stuff like that. maybe a little bit of character interactions here and there. Basically, it's kind of like a more expanded Musou mode for each of the characters. I think that would be pretty cool and pretty interesting to see. Especially for everybody's favorites to get a little bit of love and attention if they can't get it in the main story. So yeah, I think that would be a cool idea as well. And overall, I just feel like that if you can't, like, let's just stay away from a lot of the things that made Dynasty Warriors 9 awful. Just stay away from that. But the one thing I would like to see that's kept from Dynasty Warriors 9 is the character designs. Dynasty Warriors 9 had some really awesome character designs for everyone. And to me, some of the characters look the absolute best in Dynasty Warriors 9. So it would be kind of cool if we got like DLC outfits based off of their 9 character designs. I would absolutely love to see that. And even adding some of the Origins character designs for some of the characters, like, Su Zhang Zhang, Zhao Yun, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Liu Bei. It would just be pretty cool to add in those costumes as well for Dynasty Warriors 10. Again, this is the 10th entry. Dynasty Warriors 10 should feel like a celebration of the Dynasty Warriors history. So, let's go crazy with it. Do a little bit. Let's make it very exciting. Make it crazy and make it like go like absolutely balls to the walls, But yeah, that's how I would make Dynasty Warriors 10. I would try to make Dynasty Warriors 10 as exciting and as hype as I possibly could. Now, this one is a little bit interesting because this one is not a mainline game. It's not Dynasty, it's not Samurai Warriors, it's not even Warriors Orochi related. Instead, this is a completely licensed series, and that is Dynasty Warriors Gundam 4. Honestly, it still surprises me how we never got a 4th entry in this game. Yes, we did get Gundam Reborn, but that game did not actually adapt a lot of the later like Gundam suits and all that from the later shows and all that. So it would just be really cool to have a 4th entry. And if it wasn't obvious enough, I am a Mobile Suit Gundam fan. I've been following the series for quite a bit of time now. I follow things like Gundam Wing, G Gundam, Iron Blooded Orphans. I watched a little bit of Witch from Mercury, which I wasn't really too big on. I thought that was like okay-ish. I am looking forward to seeing the new Gundam series that they have coming up. It looks pretty cool. I love the animation. And honestly, it would just be awesome to have like a new Dynasty Warriors Gundam game that's based around all the new Gundam material that's came out these past couple of years. Things such as Witch from Mercury, the new Gundam show that's coming around. Even some of the like side stories that were only in the mangas and have cool mechs and all that stuff could also be adapted into the game as well. And there's just so much cool and interesting things that you could do with this game, because Gundam as a series has so much materials and so many things that can be expanded upon through a game, And for me, it would just be cool just to have a traditional stylized Gundam entry that is, that has all the new stuff in it, all the different pilots, all the cool badass mechs that came out and everything, and including new movesets, improved graphics, and improved gameplay as well. I mean, just the thought of it gets me incredibly excited, man. It really does. And genuinely, I think that there's something here. I don't know why they haven't done it. Don't get me wrong. We did have some games similar to it, like Gundam Breaker 4, which came out last year. And that game was pretty good, but it's not necessarily, a Dynasty Warriors game. It is its own thing. It's a little bit different than what we actually want, At least for me personally, when it comes to, this type of game. For me, I would just love to see a Dynasty Warriors Gundam actually come out, and with improved graphics, improved gameplay, and all the interesting new story scenarios that you can have with the new characters and the old characters as well. I feel like there's just a lot of cool potential to be had with a Dynasty Warriors Gundam 4. I mean, it's not like it's not impossible. It's not like it's not possible to make it happen. I get that maybe there's probably some sort of contract they probably had and it probably was done or whatever. But, they could possibly renew that contract and make a new Gundam game. I think it's possible, unless there's some background stuff that happened beforehand. Who knows? But for me, this would just be a fun dream spin-off Musou game that if it came into reality, I would be incredibly excited for. Next up, this one should be very obvious to my Musou fans, and that is Warriors Orochi 5. Listen, I love the Warriors Orochi games. I played the first game, played second, 3, and 4. And, these are just awesome games that celebrates the history behind two of the main franchises, obviously being Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, with some guest characters thrown in here and there from Koei Tecmo's popular franchises like Dead or Alive, and even some other games like Soul Calibur with Sophia in it and stuff, and Warriors Orochi 3. So, Warriors Orochi kind of feels like the Marvel versus Capcom of like the Musou franchise, where it's like, you got all these awesome iconic characters from different games clash into one crazy hack and slash experience. And that's why I loved Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate, because it just felt like the ultimate dream Musou game where you had everything. It had all the content in there. You could play as so many different characters. There was a lot of playable stages. The character interactions were also pretty fun to watch too. You got the cool camp system where you can like walk around your base camp for a little bit and like, improve like your weapons and your shops and all that stuff and talk to characters. It was just such a cool idea and a awesome game that, unfortunately, Warriors Orochi 4 simply just could not live up to. Like Warriors Orochi 4 was like that game where, after we had the peak that was 3, 4 tried to replicate some of that goodness, but it just couldn't. It felt way too lackluster. Even in the character roster, it just felt like that they put a very half-assed attempt into making this game feel as fun as the previous game was. Didn't even include the same amount of content, and didn't even include some of the additional characters from like, Spirit of Sanada, like, the different versions of Yukimura, it's his dad, Masayuki, I think his name was. And like just like some of the additional characters would have been cool to have on there, but obviously they didn't do that. So that was kind of a weird choice that they made. But honestly, with a Warriors Orochi 5, I wanted to kind of be like the definitive Musou game, As weird as that might sound, because Warriors Orochi 3 is kind of like that. And honestly, it is hard to top that game because that game is just so freaking good. But in my opinion, if you truly wanted to win people over, if you really wanted to win Musou fans over, all you got to do is everything you got to do here is just super simple. Bring back all the characters from both Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, including Samurai Warriors 4, and even Samurai Warriors 5 characters. I would actually throw them in there, and even like Dynasty Warriors 9 characters in there as well. Bring those characters in there, give them like a major overhaul in terms of their character designs, give them some fun move sets to play around with, and give these, make a lot of these characters feel fun. And obviously bring back the camp system for Warriors Orochi 3. I thought that was a really cool way to kind of like integrate like your character into like the world a little bit and have them interact with the characters. Except that this time just expand upon that idea and make it a little bit so that like it kind of feels a little bit like a free roam type of camp. You can kind of go around, talk to your different characters, and build up your shops and all that. So it's a little bit of like world building and RPG building here and there, if you know what I mean. That would be pretty cool to see, maybe as like an extra side mode or a story mode mission or something. Story wise, I think that obviously Orochi has to be the main villain. I know they try to do like the whole like Olympus God stuff in Samurai Warriors 4, but honestly I wasn't really too crazy about that whole plot line. It just kind of felt like it was shoehorned in there just for the sake of it. It just, in my opinion, it just felt really out of place. Another thing that I would really like to see is guest characters. I would like to see guest characters from other Koei Tecmo games, such as like Dead or Alive, and even the Atelier games, which even though I'm not all too familiar with the Atelier series, I think it would be kind of cool to have some of those characters pop up in a Warriors Orochi 5, just as simple guest characters, we can have Dead or Alive, we can have Atelier, and a bunch of other Koei Tecmo related franchises pop in there and give them fun and unique movesets. The idea is there, and I feel like if Koei Tecmo could actually master all this and make this happen, Warriors Orochi 5 could definitely have the potential to be easily the best modern Musou game of all times. But that's assuming if Koei Tecmo is willing to put in that amount of time and dedication to do that, and if they're truly passionate on doing that. You know, it's kind of up in the air as to whether or not if we're going to actually see another Warriors Orochi game like this, ever, at least to the extent of Warriors Orochi 3. But seeing as we did recently get Warriors Abyss, which kind of has a little bit of that Warriors Orochi essence to it, I definitely would love to see a new Warriors Orochi game in the modern style of Musou games and just have it be absolute hack and slash Musou greatness. I just would love to see it. Now, this one is something that I'm sure a lot of veteran fans will agree with me on, and that is seeing remasters of older Dynasty Warriors / Samurai Warriors games. And I'm also going to throw on Warriors Orochi 1 and 2 in there as well, since those games have not received a lot of ports either. Honestly, it is unfortunate that Koei Tecmo hasn't really bothered to put in the effort to preserve these games in any modern format, whether it be on PlayStation or even Steam or whatever. We just have not seen any of these older games be, available to us at any point. Now, I do recognize that, you have games like Warriors Orochi and Samurai Warriors 3 that did get PS3 ports and releases. However, those were only in Japan. So even if you wanted to play those games, you would essentially have to find a Japanese import of them. And quite honestly, I think this is one of those things where if they can actually make this work and make it possible, I think a lot of Musou fans would greatly appreciate it, especially since there is a lot of newer fans who would love to jump back and play these older games and just see how the Musou genre has evolved over the years. And quite frankly, I do understand that this might be a very tall demand because, again, if you're going to include a lot of these games in here in a collection, then you will also have to include the Extreme Legends games in there as well, which includes a lot of additional content in there. And then, who knows, you might even have to include the Empires games in there as well, since they're also part of the package too. So I understand that it is a little bit difficult to incorporate all the games on top of their expansions and put it into like one tight-knit collection. But I'm just saying, if they could actually make this happen and they found some weird roundabout way to make everything work and it all turned out perfectly smooth or whatever, then I would be absolutely happy and grateful to just have these games available in some sort of capacity. So there you have it. These are all the Musou games that I would like to see happen at some point in the future, at least when it comes to the mainline titles. I know that Dynasty Warriors Gundam doesn't necessarily count. I did kind of cheat with that one on the list, but honestly, it has Dynasty Warriors in the name, so I think it's only fair to include it, okay? But no, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you agree with the list, or do you have some other suggestions that you would like to talk about in the comment section? If so, feel free to do so. Until then, this was your boy Kazak, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.